Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. All right, so this week we have a full moon. We have Mercury moving back into Aquarius. We have the goddess asteroid Pallas moving into Aries, and we have Pisces season. So let's get into it. If you want to grab your chart just to have it handy, see where Pisces is in your chart, see where Leo is in your chart and Aquarius, and also Aries and all of these things. Overall, like it all affects us in slightly similar ways, but depending on how it aspects your chart personally and what houses it's in, it's really going to tell you how it's going to affect your life and your family and your relationships personally. So have that handy if you have it. Yes, I've been very tired lately. It's just this time of the year, like I'm really waiting for spring to get here. And I was kind of hoping that it would just be 40 degrees suddenly, like every day as soon as I woke up, but it was like 19 degrees or something here last night. So we still have a bit. I think everyone's getting a little bit restless just being inside, or I'm just getting restless being inside. I don't know. So today is Sunday, and where is my thing? All right. So today, actually, White Moon Selena is moving into Aquarius. So as you can see here, White Moon Selena, and you can tell the difference between White Moon Selena glyph and Black Moon Lilith, because Black Moon Lilith is facing towards the right side, but it's also filled in. So just think like Black Moon Lilith filled in crescent moon. And then the White Moon Selena crescent moon is not filled in, it has a little gap. Okay, so White Moon Selena is kind of like the opposite of Black Moon Lilith. It's light energy, it's light magic is how I see it. So while Black Moon Lilith is very like instinctual, very intense, emotional, sexual, it's very instinctual. It just kind of like comes naturally. White Moon Selena is like, it's not masculine, but it's more so like using our Black Moon Lilith difficult experiences to light the path for others and using that to help others and to guide them. Just having those like very Selena, which is the moon goddess, realizations and how we can bring that light to others, which is not the only thing. And I used to think that light is good, dark is bad, but that's not true at all. Like they have to both be together because they both serve different purposes. And that split between the dark and the light has really caused a lot of problems, I think. And it's our choice whether we want to be on like one end of the spectrum or the other. The way that I see it is that personally, I like to integrate both, because if you go all love and light, you're going to like totally miss all of the amazing gifts and all of the gold that's hidden in the shadows. And if you go all the way to the dark, then you might miss the beauty of what comes to light and what can grow within that light, and how we can showcase that to others to help them on their path. So that's just how I see it. White Moon Selena is moving into Aquarius today. So tomorrow, and what we're going to talk about actually is Pallas Athene, or Pallas Athena. So Pallas Athena is Athena. Pallas was just added to her name based on her story later. But this is really Athena that we're talking about. So the warrior goddess. She's got kind of an amazing story. So as you can see here, I have the chart set to 0 degrees Aries, because the rising sign, it changes so quickly and we're kind of all over. So I just have it set to 0 degrees Aries. And Pallas Athene is going to move into Aries, which is so fiery. She is a war goddess. So it's like a warrior goddess, not so much a war goddess. She's more of like a protectress. So having her moving into the sign of Aries, which is the warrior, it's a very, very feisty placement. Big entrepreneur energy for sure. And I want to talk about her because, as I've learned about astrology and learned about the asteroid goddesses, they really can tell us so much. And seeing as the planets are mostly based on the mythologies of, masculine male deities, I do think that the asteroids are really, really important. And not everybody uses them. And I understand why too, because the planets themselves is like so much. And then to throw in the asteroids too, it can be a little bit overwhelming. I know I didn't even mess with the asteroids for a really long time because I was just trying to learn about the planets. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a couple slides. Now, Pallas Athena is a really interesting history, like super, super interesting. She actually comes from a Libyan goddess. Let me just make sure this is going to work correctly. I might have to share it differently. So all this information that I'm going to be sharing with you, I learned from this book, Asteroid Goddesses by Demetra George and Douglas Block. This is like I know I talk about this book a lot, the go-to book to learn about the major asteroids and some other ones as well. So Pallas Athena, I love this art, beautiful. I really like Pallas Athena's energy too. I'm still learning it, but Pallas Athena, she's a warrior goddess, okay, in Greek mythology. She represents creative wisdom, Kundalini energy. She's associated with owls, which is wisdom, and serpents, which is also wisdom, but it's more of like, I see it as like a healer, regenerative, dark, feminine energy. But she also represents that like creative wisdom. And also she's a protectress of Athens. So you can kind of see Athens in her name, Athena. And she also represents the father-daughter complex, which we will get into. So I really like this depiction of her. I'm going to put myself over here. I really enjoy this art of her. So as you can see, she has Medusa's head on her shield, which is part of her story. So this spear that she's holding, that's actually what the symbol is supposed to be, this protectress warrior spear. What else here? So yeah, this is a really cool art piece. Athena, so she's associated with snakes and owls. Now, super interesting history. I loved learning about this. So she actually stems from a Libyan goddess, Neith, who later became an Egyptian goddess, also referred to as Net and some other different names too. So she was born on the shores of Lake Triton, which is in Libya. This is really interesting because the word Triton, we see that a lot in mythology, right? So what happened basically is over time, Neith was actually split into 3 different goddesses, and this is in Greek mythology. So Neith was split into Pallas, who's one deity, Athena, who's another, and then Medusa, who's the third. But they were actually all one goddess at one time, being Neith. So Neith was a really, really powerful snake goddess of Libya. So she represented the African Amazons, actually. Her name, so her ancient title was actually Tritogenia. So that Triton word is kind of in there, Tritogenia, because she was born on the shores of Lake Triton. Super interesting. What is her, I'm trying to find what that word actually means. Okay. So after her birth, Pallas, we're just talking about, this whole goddess here. After her birth, she was nurtured by 3 Libyan nymphs dressed in goat skins. And actually, this is something that the Greeks took on later and like made it into their own thing. As they do, as we all do in a way. Okay. From this era arose the transitional version of Athena's birth through her Titan sea goddess mother Metis, which means wise counsel. So a whole mess of stuff happened here, basically with Neith. She was a really powerful goddess representing that fierce warrioress energy and also that snake wisdom, that like secretive transmutation, dark feminine energy, healing powers. So I don't really like the triple goddess in the way of maiden, mother, crone. I just feel like it's so limiting in a lot of ways. They do talk about it in this book. Now, a lot of times when deities were triple goddesses, the Morrigan is often referred to as a triple goddess. It doesn't mean maiden, mother, crone. It just means oftentimes that they are represented by three different beings, but it's the same goddess. So it doesn't necessarily mean maiden, mother, crone. I don't like that personally, because that really wasn't a thing that was used in spirituality or religions until Wicca became a thing, which was very, very recent, I believe. So when I say triple goddess, I mean that these three deities are kind of representing the same goddess. I feel personally that it's limiting because it's really just basing women on their reproductive organs in a way. Like, we don't really do that for men. We're not like boy, father. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Okay. So anyways, so Pallas. So let's start talking about what each of these goddesses really were. So in the Greek stories, so first, Pallas was the daughter of the sea god Triton, and she was a strong maiden protectress, which is true. Now, she was accidentally killed by Athena in Greek myth. Athena and Pallas were just like having a duel, like in a fun fighting kind of way. And Athena's father, who is Zeus / Jupiter, he like held up his shield or something and distracted Pallas, which Athena ended up killing her on accident. So that's how the Greek story goes. Athena herself, she's a fierce warrior-ess. So she was sprung from the head of Zeus and Jupiter. She doesn't actually have a mother in her story. She literally just like came out of Zeus's forehead. Like, he had like a splitting headache and she came out of his forehead. And he immediately favored Athena. So you can kind of see something happening here with this like cutting off and the killing, right? Which is not strange for Greek mythology, but it has something to do with this story in particular. So Medusa, as you know, Medusa was cursed by Athena to have the head of snakes, which her hair was like her most prized possession. She was very, very beautiful. Medusa was actually dedicated to Athena. So Medusa was violated in Athena's temple. And instead of punishing Poseidon, who violated Medusa, Athena actually punished Medusa by giving her the head of snakes and giving her the curse of any man she looked at would turn to stone. So Medusa is healing, regenerative crone kind of energy, wisdom, right? Serpentine wisdom. Medusa is really Athena's true nature, and she represents the severance from the matriarch. They all do. So they kind of all represent the same thing because they all do stem from the same goddess Neith. Now, what's interesting about this is their stories really are representing what happened to women through the patriarchy over time. So that's kind of what is being reflected here. So Pallas, who is like the strong maiden protectress, is accidentally killed by Athena. So this is kind of representing that part of Athena that cut herself off from, maidenhood or whatever you want to call it. It's really cutting Athena off from her femininity. And the same thing with Medusa here. When she cursed Medusa, she was kind of cutting herself off of that dark feminine wisdom, which is super, unfortunate and very interesting because in the story, Athena sends, oh my gosh, what is his name? She sends what's his face? I'm sorry. Oh my God, I cannot think of his name. She sent someone to go kill Medusa, and he brought back Medusa's head, which then Athena put on her shield. So Athena is kind of like, that's supposed to represent her like initial rooted feminine, like wisdom, dark feminine energy. But what's really interesting about that is she still had Medusa killed. Now, a lot of people interpret this in different ways, which I do as well. Like, Medusa was violated by Poseidon, but Athena cursing her to have this curse of turning men into stone, and having these snakes as hair, it might be like a protective measure too, because nobody wanted to be around Medusa after that, certainly not men. So in a way, it was like Athena trying to, like, on one hand, protect herself. And in some versions of the story, she had pity on Medusa and was like, hey, go put her out of her misery, basically. So it definitely seems like Athena's doing this terrible thing, which it is in a way, because she did curse Medusa. Medusa didn't do anything wrong. But it's also, it could be like her severing herself from her, roots, her inborn, like her wisdom that she was born with. And so as you can see, like the stories are showing how this like one deity over time, because of the patriarchy, was split into these different aspects. And I do think that the maiden mother crone thing is also like a result of the patriarchy as well. So it's a really interesting story. They're all the same deity, but the stories kind of reflect what was happening in society at the time too. So Pallas is moving into Aries. So in the birth chart, Pallas Athene represents a lot of things. It's definitely our creative intelligence. It's the creative feminine intelligence. So art, it's really a lot of things, anything with creativity. Because when it comes to feminine energy tends to be creative. And that doesn't mean it's not intelligent, right? But because things are getting split still, the creative intelligence was like placed upon this feminine deity, while I guess like the rest of intelligence was given to like the male deities, which again, it's not like you can't have both, but that's really what Pallas Athene is representing. Now she also represents Kundalini energy, snake energy, snake wisdom, serpent wisdom. Okay. So she also represents the polarities of both courage and fear. She also represents like the father-daughter relationship, because she didn't have a mother in the Greek story. She sprang from the head of Zeus. So she often represents that dynamic between father and daughter, like the good and the bad. She also represents the healing arts, which I always see like snake energy as being very healing. And most of all, she represents like a woman in a man's world. So it's kind of like, as a woman growing up in society, a lot of times we are expected to cut ourselves off from like normal things like career, or just like normal things that everybody should be able to do. We're expected to almost cut ourselves off from our femininity in order to fit into that patriarchal world. For example, like you can't be a mother and have a career. It's like women are always judged for that, and we're expected to like cut ourselves off from our healing wisdom and our sensitivity and everything that makes us a woman. In today's world, we're expected to cut ourselves off from that. And that's what a lot of Pallas Athene's story tells us and teaches us. So Pallas in Aries, I'm just going to read this. This is straight from the book, Asteroid Goddesses. Pallas Athene in Aries shows a perception that seeks to activate or initiate, right? Because Aries is the beginning of spring. It's that I always see it as the seed shooting through the earth with its sprout. It's a very like forward warrior kind of energy ruled by Mars. Seeing is in terms of how to get something going. Because of Aries' strong connection to vital energy, Pallas Athene in healing shows the vision which activates the vital force expressed in techniques such as homeopathy and acupuncture. Pallas Athene expresses aesthetically in athletes using their bodies as vehicles for the creative impulse, or in the pioneering field of kinetic art. Politically, Pallas Athene is a very militant warrior, mobilizing the vital energy into fighting for what the person believes in. The wisdom of Pallas Athene is that sudden urge, that sudden inspiration, the brainstorm, or the sudden pioneering urge or vision. Yeah, I just think of like martial arts, and they have chart examples. They have magician Harry Houdini, which I just thought that was so interesting. His dangerous feats as an escape artist. That's so interesting. Like that is Pallas Athene and Aries energy for sure. Okay, so that is all I have about Pallas Athene. Look in your chart and see where Pallas Athene is in your own chart. I believe I have Pallas Athene in Scorpio in the 11th. Yeah, it's just a very interesting energy. And of course, you don't have to be a woman to associate with this energy. And like that's part of the problem too, is men kind of being raised and brought up to not integrate these feminine aspects and like their own feminine healing and creative potential as well. All right. So on Wednesday, let's share the charts. We have a full moon in Leo. Yay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the full moon in Leo. That is not the right time. Oh, this is the wrong chart. Okay. So full moon in Leo, I'm actually quite excited about this. All right, so I'm just going to look at my notes here. I've already looked at the astrology. All right. It's a very vibrant full moon. For sure. Mars is going to be conjunct Venus. Exactly. Like literally exactly. That's like 1 minute apart here. So it's a very beautiful, like relationship driven full moon. And I see it as like harmonizing the aspects of like the polarities, the yin and the yang. So Black Moon Lilith is also going to be sextile exactly Aries at the time of the full moon. So there's like some serious feminine warrior, like feminine Plutonian energy going on, like serious snake wisdom. I definitely see a lot of healing happening, a lot of dark feminine learning from our experiences and finding what is hidden in our own darkness happening, which is kind of ironic because the full moon in Leo is ruled by the sun. So there's definitely this nice balance happening here of what is seen as what and what is unseen, what is light and what is dark. The sun and the moon will also be squared Sedna. So I see this as almost bringing up a lot of father wounds for people, a lot of wounds dealing with men or masculine people in our life in particular. And in the case of Pallas Athene, it could be our relationship with a very patriarchal world. It's bringing up those wounds, but I see it as being so empowering. Like I really do feel like it's so empowering. I feel like we're all kind of working together, like in our relationships to balance these aspects of our lives. And I do see it as being very positive. We also have Pluto forming a sextile to the south node and trining the north node. So you can kind of see that here, these thick blue lines. And as always, I have this set to the closer the aspect is, the thicker the line is. So I thought that was really interesting because, you know, Pluto is doing its work here. We're really carving out this new path. It does feel very Taurus to me because it's almost like we're like pushing through, like I just see like a bull working in the fields, like plowing, like we're really carving out this new path, especially with Pluto's help here. We're really looking at things in a different way and realizing our own true strength and what our roots really are, or we're like really creating our own path, our own roots. The Taurus Scorpio axis is so strong and so powerful, so driven. We also have Mercury forming a trine to Ceres, which is Demeter. So again, I see this severing energy, like this cutting off energy, letting go, severing ourselves from old versions of ourselves, because Leo is the ego. Leo is what we're focused on, our drive. It's the part of ourselves that is projected out. That's how I always see it. So it's the part of us that most people see, while the moon is a little bit more hidden. So, and it's almost like with the moon in Leo, it's like we're bringing out those parts of ourselves out into the open. So there's something happening here where parts of ourselves that maybe with the Aquarius energy we thought was too weird, it's too different, nobody will like us, people will just think that we're weirdos. Well, so what? That's how this full moon feels. So what? Bring it out there, be your weird self. Like there's nothing I personally appreciate more than people who are just like unapologetically themselves. Strange. I got my Venus in 11th house too. So I love the weird. I love the strange. I love the outcasts of society. Like I just love that kind of thing. And it's time to bring that stuff out. Like it's going to be a very boring world if we just always try to do what we think we should instead of just being ourselves. Like just be yourself, put it out there. If people don't like it, tough. I was just having a conversation with somebody who will probably watch this video about this. Black Moon Lilith is going to square Neptune. This is interesting. So Black Moon Lilith is down here. It's not drawn in here. Is going to square. I got distracted. So is going to square Neptune. Neptune being dreams, illusions, delusions, visions, psychic activations. Black Moon Lilith square Neptune. Lilith being like our dark feminine power, wisdom. Here we are again. Power, wisdom, learning from our traumatic experiences, facing or fleeing our oppressors, our abusers, squaring Neptune. Like the delusions and the illusions are over. Like they cannot be continued. We're really seeing that for what it is. And there's so much power in that process. And being, Black Moon Lilith has been in Gemini for a while. The process of realizing how we've gained back our true power through those difficult experiences is very mental. But we have to really let go of those illusions and delusions and that nostalgia. That's kind of how I feel about this, that nostalgia that we hold on to. Nostalgia is a really dangerous thing because it can sometimes be very pleasant. But if you get sucked like too far into that, it becomes very not so nice Neptune energy, which can be like addiction or avoidance or escapism or things like that. So letting go of that nostalgia, letting go of looking at the past like with these like rose-colored glasses. Don't do that. It's not going to be good for any of us, I don't think. We just have to move on because it's never what it seems. And as we look into the past and remember things, like we're remembering an echo and an echo of a memory of a memory of a memory, and it might just not be accurate at all. So like it's time to cut that stuff off. That's how I feel like Lilith is talking to us. There's also a lot of magical aspects. I won't get too much into that because we'll be here forever. But also there is this awesome grand cross happening here if you want to include the nodes. So we have all the fixed signs activated here. Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and Taurus. They're all activated. So this is really awesome. And look at, they're exactly square. So beautiful, actually grand square that's happening here, which is a lot of pressure, a lot of conflict between opposing parts of our life that seem like they don't go together, but this is like the four directions. This is the four elements. This is the square. This is the four, the stability, creating something. There's a lot of tension, I would say, and conflict with this full moon. And this is like, let's think about just the Aquarius and the Leo. Ego versus who we are in the community, ego versus who we are in the friend groups that we have, or any kind of group that we're a part of. Who are we with them versus who are we individually? And those things kind of actually all go hand in hand. They all go together, of course, but they seem like they're opposites. Scorpio and Taurus, Scorpio creating the chaos, the death and rebirth that we can be reborn from, versus Taurus, which is being stable, being consistent, doing a job well done all the way through. So we're going to have to integrate these polarities somehow, but I think with them all being connected this full moon, it's going to be a very magical process. But it's going to take work for sure with all of those square aspects. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is Friday is Pisces season. So let me animate this and share that. So we're moving out of Aquarius season, moving into Pisces season. This is a really exciting time for me because that means we'll have a full moon in Virgo, which is my moon sign. Yes, so Pisces season. What is Pisces? Pisces is the unicorn, basically. Pisces is the culmination of all the other signs. It's the last sign in the karmic wheel of the zodiac. Pisces is the seer, the mystic, the guru, the very compassionate healer, teacher, mentor, counselor. They're really here in selfless service to others, with the opposite being Virgo, which is also selfless service to others. They're just kind of like different types of service. Pisces is really interesting because they dissolve everything. They dissolve all the boundaries. They dissolve the limitations of Saturn, of reality. And they're a lot more complex, I think, than people give them credit for. It's always kind of funny to see what people say about Pisces because it's very clear that they don't understand them at all. Like they totally miss the mark about what Pisces is. They're not just like some crybaby drug addicts. I don't know why everybody says that about them. They're very sensitive, but they're very emotionally complex. They're the last part of this whole karmic wheel process that we're going on. They are the letting go. Jamie, not to call you out here, she says that she sees the 12th house as being the liminal space in between this world and the next. And I really, really like that. So it's really the in my opinion, it's the energy of sleep and meditation and rest and reflection, things like that. So Pisces, they're the most compassionate people around. I feel that Pisces people in their families, they're always the one that takes care of everyone else, and they just kind of like fit into that role. They don't necessarily always like that role, but they're just such compassionate healers that they end up being in that role a lot of the time. But they're more than that too. They're very creative. They're very intelligent. They're very spiritually advanced. They have like the strongest intuition out of all the water signs, out of all the signs in general, because they literally just take that in, right? They're the dissolver of boundaries, which is kind of Virgo. They dissolve boundaries. So this is kind of where things get tricky for them, because they literally take people's problems on. They take on their energy, and they can't tell the difference sometimes of what they are feeling versus what someone else is feeling, because it just goes right through them, or like literally into their own energy. I see Pisces as being like the zodiac mirror. Like they will mirror to you exactly what you are, but amplified. Everyone in the zodiac, we can all kind of be the mirror for each other, but like Pisces is the mirror, like they literally are. And they're so watery, and they're very fantastical, like in a good way too. They have a great imagination, a great creativity about them, a uniqueness. Pisces are just so magical to me with all my Virgo placements. I'm just like, wow, there are people out there that can just like relax and just take life as it comes and not obsess about the details until they're having a panic attack. They're just like so Jesus-like in a way. A lot of people think that Jesus was a Pisces, so they're definitely a guru, a religious teacher, but more of like the guru. I also see Sagittarius as being kind of like a religious teacher in a way. But Pisces is like the advanced version of that, if you will. Ruled by Neptune, which is the planet of dreams and spirituality and healing and very, very, very powerful emotions. While actually in ancient astrology, Pisces and Sagittarius were both ruled by Jupiter. So there's like a Jupiter energy too. I mean, Jupiter and Neptune are so similar. A lot of astrologers say that Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, which I could definitely see, but Jupiter and Neptune also have a lot of like similar energies going on. All right, so that is all that I have for you guys. See where Pisces is in your chart, and I'm excited for the full moon. I will do the live stream on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. So I will see you there for that. I personally really like Leo energy. It's just very pleasant and enjoyable to me. I think Libras and Leos are like the same kind of energy. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your Aquarius season. Enjoy your super passionate Valentine's Day with Pallas Athene moving into Aries. Also, Mercury will move back into Aquarius that day too. Okay, have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will see you on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Bye.